this skill, we'll be looking at complete number sequences with fractions and decimals. The learning goal for this skill is to be able to identify number patterns that have fractions and decimals involved. The success criteria is to continue and create sequences involving whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. And we also should be able to describe the rule used to create the sequence. I've gone ahead and grabbed a few examples from the patterns and algebra, which is in the number and algebra strand. And we'll look at this first example where it's asking for what the missing decimal number is within this sequence. So we've got the first term, and then it has nothing there, and then it has the next three terms. So in order to know what the number sequence is, we have to find if it's going up or down. In this case, let's just ignore these two for now. We can see 12.25, 14.75. This is going up, okay, and it's going to keep going up. And we want to know what it's going up by. What's the difference between those terms? In this case, you will grab your calculator, and all you'll do is just find the difference between one of the terms and the previous term. So in this case, we're going to do 14.75, and we're going to subtract 12.25 to give us a difference of 5/2. Remember, we press the SD button because we're dealing with decimals. 2.5 or 2.5. So we know in this case that this is going up by 2.5, but just to make sure, 14.75 plus 2.5 is 17.25. So all we have to simply do is just plus this 7.25 by 2.5 to see what we get. 7.25 plus 2.5 will give us SD 9.75, which is this answer here. So just be careful. Sometimes these questions can either go up or increase, or they can decrease. So you've just got to see if the trend is going higher in values or lower in values from left to right. You'll get the same type of questions, but this time we're going to be dealing with fractions. So in this case here, which is a missing fraction in the number sequence? Again, the second term is missing. We don't know what this term is. And we can see here that fractions is a bit trickier to determine whether it's going up or down. But we can see this 2 is by itself, and then it goes 2 2/3. Now automatically, I know that this is going up by 2/3. This is going up by 2/3. And you just keep plussing 2/3 from left to right. So for this second term here, all I have to do is grab the first term, which is 2/3, pick a fraction, 2/3, make sure you go across, and then add another 2/3. Now, if you're really good with fractions, you should be able to tell that this will be 4/3 or 1 1/3. But if you are having trouble with the answer being a improper fraction and you want to convert it to a mixed numeral, you just go ahead and press the Shift button and then press the SD button, and that will automatically change it from improper to a mixed numeral or the proper fraction. So 1 1/3 will be the answer, and that makes sense because once this is 1 1/3, we add an extra 2/3 to that, we'll be left with exactly 2. You will then get questions that look like this. The rule for this pattern is, and then it will tell you what the rule will be for a certain sequence. In this case, it will either tell you to add or subtract. We've got subtract here, and it will tell you the certain number that you either have to add or subtract. In this case, we're subtracting by 0.22. So to get from 5.29 to the next term, we have to subtract 0.22. So 5.29, take away 0.22. Remember to press the SD button, 5.07, 5.07. Then to get the next term, I don't have to just type in 5.07 again. I can just go subtract 0.22. And I will get 4.85, 4.85. And again, subtract 0.22, 4.63, 4.63, and then the last one, 4.41. And just to double check to make sure that you're doing this correct, you should see the trend going down from left to right. In this case, we're minusing. Okay. If for whatever reason you have a value at the right that's higher than the value to the left, and you know you're meant to be subtracting and you've made a mistake either within your calculations or just a numerical mistake of some sort. Now we're going to get into questions, which is pretty much the fundamental basis of algebra. And it doesn't seem like it because we always associate algebra with random letters with no context, but this is a starting point for it. So we're going to look at this sequence here. The question says how many circles will be in the 8th position in this pattern. So right now we've got certain positions. We can look at this one and consider this as the 1st position, the 2nd position, 3rd, and 4th. And instead of writing those little position carriers at the end, we can just put what term number is. So the first one is just term 1, term 2, term 3, etc. And we want to try to figure out, okay, when we get to the 8th term, when we get to the 8th one, how many of these little circles are we expected to have? Well, we know in the first one there are going to be 2, because this is just the pattern that has been established. The first one's going to carry 2. And then the next one, we're going to add another 2. So we're just going to add 2 to get 4. And then again, we're going to add another 2 to get 6. And then add 2 to get 8. Now, logically speaking, you can just keep adding 2 to get the 5th, get 6th, 7th, until we get the last required position. There's also an easy way to determine this that disregards the positions that are in between. We can jump straight from the 8th position to get how many dots are required just by noticing the pattern here. Now, the first term is going to have double the amount of what the term value is. So double 1 is 2. And then the second term is going to have, again, double the amount of the position number. In this case, we have 2 here, double 2 is 4. Here we have double 3, which is 6, and then double 4, which is 8. So, how do we get that last one? So with this number here, if we're just going to double the term amount, in order to know how many value of circles we're going to have, we should just double 8, which ends up being 16. So the answer in this case would be 16 circles. And you'll just go ahead and write 16 for your answer. Next one here, how many matches will there be in 6 triangles in this pattern? Alright, so this one's a little bit different. It's actually a bit trickier to determine how we are meant to get this answer. So we have the number of triangles. So a triangle, 3 sides, enclosed. And when we have one triangle, we've used 3 matchsticks. So the number of matches is 3. And then we're going to add 2 more to get 2 triangles, and all up we have 5 matchsticks. And then we add another 2 to get 7 matchsticks, make it 3 triangles. So we know that this goes up by 2, goes up by 2, goes up by 2. So again, we can just keep going. We can just add 2 plus 2 to get 11, and then add another 2 to get 13. So we know that the number of matchsticks required will be 13 in order to make 6 triangles. But what happens if they give you a question where it says the number of triangles was 30? How many matchsticks? Well, we can obviously keep adding 2, adding 2, adding 2 until we get to 30, but again, this process is tiresome. I want to see if I can find a link between the number of triangles and the number of matches required. Now this one is not obvious. This one, there's no obvious way. It doesn't look like we can just double it, because if we double 1, we get 2. If we double 2, we get 4. If we double 3, we get 6. But what you will notice is that when we double the amount, so double 1, we get 2, double 2 we get 4, double 3 we get 6, double 4 we get 8. We're always shy of just one number. We're always shy of just one number. So to compensate for that, we could just double the number of triangles and then add 1. So if we double the number of triangles in this case, double 2 is 4, which we've got here, and then add another 1, and then that way we can get 5. Double 3 to get 6, add 1 to get 7. Double 4 to get 8, add 1 to get 9. So in this case, just to make sure that it's correct, double 6 is 12, and then add 1 to make 13. So that way we've got this rule. We can double, then add 1. And this is the type of skill that we're going to be building up to be able to decipher or come up with a certain rule in order to help us determine, in this case, how many matches we can get from the number of triangles. So if we were to apply it to 30 triangles, like I said before, if we had 30 triangles, well, we can just double 30 to get 60 and then add 1. So the number of matches required for 30 triangles would be 61. We didn't have to go through and cipher through all the previous ones to get 61. We just came up with this pretty neat rule. The last example here, which is the correct rule for the number sequence. So we have this number sequence that is going down by a certain amount. And we have to try to decipher what this is going down by. Now, when you get the answer, you'll notice that the 4 different answers have this weird T letter, and then either have a number, a minus or a plus, and then some type of number. So what do these letters mean? The T just stands for term. And term also just means the position that we have within the sequence. All right, so if I'm talking about the second term, I know that the second term will be this one here. So T just stands for term. And so you'll notice that the T here, you can grab any term, all right? And in order to get the next term, you either have to add or subtract something. And this is what the minus or the plus means. So we know from left to right, we're going down. So we know it either has to be one of these two answers here, because we're not adding a term. We're not adding any terms. Unless the question goes up from left to right, then we're adding. But in this case, we're minusing. Now, in order to determine what we're minusing it by, or what we're subtracting, we can just take the first term, 8.50, and just see the difference between the next term, which is 7.87. And the difference, as an SD, is 0.63. So we know this is going down by 0.63, meaning T minus 0.63 is your answer. So to grab any sequence or any position, you can grab any term and just take away 0.63. So to get this term here, we had to get the previous term, 6.61, and take away 0.63 to get 5.98. Well, let's just make sure that that's the case. 6.61 take away 5.98. 0.63, and that's correct. And that concludes this skill. Go ahead and attempt this skill, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.